what they've done in that family.
Mm-hmm.
They're all lawyers.
Oh, is he?
No, he didn't want to be a lawyer.
What does he do?
Same thing, eh?
Oh, well, they got a
I
lot
got
in
something in
common
common
then.
then.
They have a lot in common, it seems like. Sometimes I think that, I don't know how good that is.
They probably have enough differences to make it up.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. Well, good.
Oh, Lord.
So, we were at the doctor's yesterday. I had to go to see my doctor. And he said he had something to tell us. And I said, what in the world? I go to faculty. I've been going to him for many, many years. And a lot of them have wanted me to get a younger man, somebody else. And I said, well, he's always helped me. And if he couldn't help me, he has had me with the best, I thought.
He'll send you who can.
So, he said, what? I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, well, they've got quite a number of internal men that Clark over. And he said, did I have a preference? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I see what I can do about it. He said, he is one of the best. So, he will be retiring. And he was going to, we talked on, a little bit and all that. A good little bit after he got through with it. And he started out and said, I'll just wait and kiss you next time. I don't have you coming one more time.
Oh, well.
I don't see him often.
He didn't try to kiss you, did he, Uncle Frank? Okay.
I'm too tall.
Oh, he couldn't reach you.
Well, listen, I want you to tell David the story about when your mom and daddy met at church. I was trying to tell it to him, and I couldn't get it straight, how they met. And
How they met? Well, let's go back a little farther.
okay, wherever you want to.
My mother had one brother, and their father died when they were very young.
What was her brother's name?
George
George
Drummond.
Drummond.
And so they just went right ahead working, and doing that at home as they grew up. And they had an aunt that they had never married, and she lived there with my mama's mother. That was St. Frank. And so they lived together. And I've heard it tell about the first stove they ever had back in that day, Everybody didn't have stoves. Of course, they had a good sized farm, all that, but they didn't have a stove. So they went to LaGrange, Uncle George did, and bought a stove. And the day they went to get the stove, Uncle George or whoever went, they went to the woods to get chestnut bark. They thought you had to burn chestnut bark in the stove.
That was the only thing you could burn was chestnut bark?
Chestnut bark.
It produced a lot of heat.
Oh.
So as time went on, and anyway, Mama went to a meeting, singing or something down at Union Grove Church. And Papa at that time was overseeing for Uncle Oliver Moore. He had a good sized farm. And so when Papa saw Mama, he asked some of them who she was. And they told him it's George Drummond's sister. He said, well, I'm going to meet her before she leaves here today. And they said, you better leave her alone, because George Drummond won't have no Camelot going with neighbor.
Now, that's a religion?
Well, that's the same thing as a Christian. That's what they used to call them.
Oh, Camelots.
Yeah. And so, same thing as Uncle Oliver was, and Bethel thing.
Oh, like the Christian denomination, not the Christian faith.
No, Christian denomination.
And so, in a way, they met. I don't remember how long they dated, anything like that. But the night before they were gonna get married the next day at her home, they were having a home wedding.
Uh-huh.
And they always had an in-fair, you know, after.
That's the word I was looking for, an in-fair.
In-fair.
Kinda like a
Recep-
party.
No, they
Reception.
had a big, dinner,
Oh,
big luncheon or something like that, you know, after it was all over.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, but the night before, when Papa started to leave, the evening before late, he told Mama later he started to kiss her before he left. Said, yes, and if you had you, and I wouldn't have had you.
oh.
Lord,
And they call it an in-fair.
unfair.
But anyway,
Never
they
heard
got
of that.
married, and they went to, Papa carried her up to, in Henry County, up to Conyers, up there. His mother was living then, and so was, Aunt Viola hadn't married, she was at home. And he carried her up there, and I told Frank the other day, I said, they had to go on a train. I'd forgotten about that part of it. But, you know, they, of course, my mother didn't have any experience with an organ, you know. Of course, they had an organ, you know, and so Aunt Viola would dress up, you know, and play the organ. And you know, my mother wasn't one of these,
Really tight.
well, but she had never had those experiences
Mhm.
of all that. But anyway, they went back and they lived at Uncle Alder Moore's, right there next to him, in a little home. And then they built up there right next to my grandmother. And the home was just the other side of it.
Yeah, was this the same Uncle Oliver I would remember when I was a little boy?
No, Mother had a brother named Oliver. This was Oliver
Okay.
Moore. It was your daddy's brother.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oliver Moore.
Uh-huh.
I swear I remember that name and him.
Oh, you probably remember the name, but you wouldn't remember him.
Okay.
Well,
But Mom
anyway,
had a brother named Oliver too.
Where was this at, Aunt Minnie? Where you were talking about where
Where
they
was
live?
what?
Where did they live?
where did my mother,
You talking about your mother and her brother George and all?
Uh-huh.
Where did they live at?
at Wearsville, right there about
You know where Wearsville is on the way to Franklin?
2 or 3 miles. What direction?
Oh,
North,
no, it wouldn't be more than a mile and a half.
mile and a half over there.
Get up on top of the hill at Middlebrook Crossroad and take the right.
You leaving Wearsville. You're going over toward the Drummondses.
Well,
You
Was
go
it
over-
close to where Granny and them used to live?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The home where she used to live, that place is still there. Of course, it's been renovated and
Mhm.
all that since then. But we used to go up there when Uncle George, you know, first time he married a stick. The next time, she died. And then he married a Turner from over yonder at Central Hatchet, Georgia. And they went to Texas. And he used to come back here to visit. And I've been up there with Uncle George and Mama. And we would walk, you know, back in the pastures and the woods and all where they used to live.
Now, whose place when I used to go over to Bethel with Granny and Granddaddy Hester,
Okay,
they
that
used to
was the-
go down a dirt road.
That was
to-
the old home place where she was raised.
Okay.
Did you ever go down there?
Yes, ma'am. I can remember going down the dirt road, but I don't
Uh-huh.
remember a house or what it looked like or anything. Just
Well, it used to be a pretty place, but it was just,
Mm-hmm.
had this one in it and that one in there.
Mhm.
Had swept yards. I remember the yards, and it was swept. They didn't have grass, you know. But after your mom and daddy married, then they moved to Texas.
Well, they had, while they was living down there at Uncle Alva's, my mother went to and Daddy went up to see her mother. Her mother was ill in her last days. They went up to see her, and they had a little girl at that time. I mean, they had this little girl, and her name was Precious. Papa would have named every girl he saw Precious if he could have. And he did name several. And anyway, they went up there, and while they were there, anyway, she had diphtheria developed there. Anyway, she died. My grandmother was lying there, of course, and my mother had a miscarriage. Was in bed. But anyway, after all of that, they built a home. That home right there below. And then after, they went to Texas. And they lived there 18 years.
What part of Texas was it?
Central, near Barney, not too far from Temple.
And the boys were all born out there,
Yes,
and you were not.
I was.
Oh, you were born
You
in
were born in
Texas?
Texas too?
I thought it was after they came back to Georgia.
No.
Okay,
I was
so
out there when this happened to my eye.
oh, I didn't know that.
And I feel like if I could have stayed there, I would have still had an eye there.
Tell the girls don't know how you did it. Tell them about your eye.
Well, I was, my brothers had been up to Barley, 1 mile from where we lived. That was the town, where they went to school. And I was around 3 years old, and he was holding one end of the string and me the other night, and he'd been cutting. And I wanted to cut, and when I did, I cut the wrong way, went into my eye.
Ooh.
And they rushed me then to the doctor there referred us to Temple. And apparently I was over it in a manner. And then I came back when they moved to Georgia. By the time I was 4 before, then I became inflamed or infected. And we were referred to Dr. Slack in LaGrange. That was his name. That's what it was. Because my eye, I was just losing it. And the other one too. And all the playing that I did was under the dining room table where my mother put things around it to knock out all the light. And I could get under there and play. Keep the light away. And then Uncle Oliver's daughter married a doctor, and he referred us to Crawford W. Long. And we went up.
That's in Atlanta, isn't it?
In Atlanta. We went up there, and we went to and as soon as we got there, they said it was an emergency, that my eye had to come out. And that first night, well, it seems that I can remember this. I guess I heard it so much. But Papa was right there with Mama and with me. And, but they said, well now, the mother can't stay with her tonight. Won't be anybody with her. Papa said, well, if the baby stays, the mama will stay. So she stayed. And I can remember just wanting ice. I had all that much temperature. But anyway, it was removed. And I don't remember how long I stayed in the hospital.
How long was this after you first cut it?
Well, it wasn't too long,
6, 8 months, I'd say.
I would think. But this began to happen like in the spring, you know, this infection began to start. And so I was in the hospital up at Crawford W. Long. I don't know how long. But anyway, we had at that time we had quite a few relatives there in Atlanta. And we also had one that was a millionaire. And she brought her 2 sons that were about my age to see me. And they brought, each one brought a blonde doll. It was about that high. And the other brought a brunette. They were the nicest things. I'd give anything in the world if I could have kept them over the years.
Mhm.
They'd even, the little fingers would bend everywhere, you know, and all.
Oh, wow.
I've never seen one like that.
They were nice, very nice, you know, that I was so proud of.
Well,
Imagine.
who was that was the millionaire cousin?
Well, that was Uncle Luther's daughter.
Okay, well,
You know,
Mother-
he was a dentist. Uncle
Mo-
Luther was a dentist.
Mother used to say we had some rich kinfolks in Atlanta, and all those big buildings were named.
Well,
After
William and all the buildings were the one. And when I was up there the last time and visited, a cousin of mine that was in over there at Emory, in Druid City in the nursing home, I was asking her about them, if they were still living, if William and Oliver were still living. And she said yes. And she says their number is not in the telephone array.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are these the two boys that came and brought you the dolls?
Mhm. So
What
I
is that
don't,
last name?
Healy,
The buildings were referred to Healy buildings.
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know.
I never heard any of that.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And until Lib gave us those things for Christmas one
Mhm.
time, I didn't know we ever had any relatives around Atlanta or McDonough or any of that area.
Well, you said they named McDonough after,
That's what I've been told. My father's mother was a McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
and do you remember the trip home from Texas? Back to Georgia from Texas?
I can remember very little about it. I can remember all those, what did they call those people that used to go through with the baskets of grapes and all that fruit?
Butch,
Yeah. Butchers?
Butch,
Butch.
Butch, they buy stuff and resell it, make a little money.
Uh-huh. They come through there, you know, all that fruit stand. I can just, I remember that.
On the
No.
train?
And they were a butch.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Well, Steve, last
And
time I
then-
talked to him, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, then, of course, Mom and them had all those children. She lost a daughter out there and a son. And the son would have been near my age. He was just older than me, and he was redheaded.
what was his name?
Tommy?
And the girl was Precious.
No, the first girl was
The
Winnie,
guy
and
was
this
Precious.
one was Winnie.
Oh, yeah.
Is that who Aunt Olive was named after?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Olive, name's Precious, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
And he named one of your your mother's aunt's little girls that was born right down there below us,
Mhm.
Precious.
He liked that name, didn't he?
He did. And he had a number of people, he had several boys named after him. Elton Middlebrooks was named after him,
Wasn't
and Elton Arney.
Well, tell us something about your daddy, my granddaddy.
And when he was there at Uncle Oliver's, he used to, before he married, he would go up to the Methodist church at Texas, Georgia,
Mhm.
and teach a Sunday school class in the morning. And then he would go back over another direction to what's the name? We went over there with Nine and Dewey. Well, he went over to another church, it's a Baptist, and he taught Sunday school in the afternoon.
Well, you drive a wagon or ride a horse or?
He rode a horse.
Now, he was redheaded too, is that right?
Who? Bob?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no, he had the blackest hair.
Oh, I thought he had dark red hair.
Uh-uh.
Where did y'all get the red hair?
Well, Uncle George had the dark red hair.
Oh, so it was on the Drummond side.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Well, can you tell them about your father younger life in Texas.
His life in Texas?
He worked with horses.
Oh, back when he was young, he worked up in, out in Colorado. Uncle Dan Scott lived out there. Uncle Dan married Papa's brother. I mean sister.
Well, he's lonely out on the prairie, I guess.
Oh.
Married Uncle Dan's wife was Papa's sister. And Uncle Dan used to visit us too. But I won't get to that now. But Papa was out there at there, and then he went over to Utah, and he used to work at a
Stagecoach.
stagecoach
Wow.
stop.
Do you hear that, Goose?
He worked at this stagecoach stop, and his job was having to get the horses ready and have the harness on them and ready, you know, when the next change and have when the next stage came along.
I'd
So
never
he
heard
was
that.
good with animals? He was good with animals?
Oh, yeah.
Well, out in Colorado, did you say he broke horses? Or handled horses, or
No,
what?
I'm sure he did. That's where he was.
Oh.
And he told about at times they'd get word, you know, that the Indians were coming, you know, and all of that, but I don't think
Wow.
anything ever materialized there.
You know, that just seems like it would have been 1,000 years ago. You don't ever realize it would have been, okay, that was your granddaddy,
Mm-hmm.
my great-granddaddy, and your great-great-granddaddy when they were still Indians.
Well, the boys
Fighting.
around home used to, I remember they come up there and sit, and Papa would just tell them all of that, and they would just eat it. They enjoyed it.
Well, who was it you said one time that was out cutting wood and an Indian rode up and just looked at him? Didn't you tell me that one time?
Well,
Could that have been
well,
Grandpa?
up there in Texas, they had some there that was helping to pick cotton. And they came up, you know, and I'm telling you, it liked to frighten my mama. It did.
Mm-hmm. Did they ever say or do anything?
No.
They just rode up and looked.
Hmm. You just don't think of that happening to somebody that's kidding to you like that. Well,
What? I've asked some questions. You asked her some things you want to
I'm
know.
just enjoying listening.
Listening to her talk.
Where did our family come from as far back as anybody can find out? I mean, were they in Georgia the whole time, or did they come from somewhere else? Or
Do you know, brother?
No, I'm assuming they came from the Carolinas at one time.
Mac could tell you better than I can. He just goes back and all of that. And on the McLean side of his grandmother, on the Oldfield side, he's got all of that all the way back.
Well, now, do you know what descent we actually? I mean, English, German,
Scotch?
Scotch?
Scotch.
more Scotch. Do you know that, David? I didn't.
I didn't.
So long, long time ago, they came from Scotland. What? Tell us a little something about my daddy.
That's your daddy?
Mm-hmm.
He was a good man.
Was it?
Everybody says I'm just like him. Everybody says I'm just like him.
He sure was good to me. I
I've
remember.
heard that he was real fun-loving, liked to pull jokes and do things. And
Oh, he did.
I said, I guess I get going after him. I love to go, you know, and Mother said that he did too, love to go.
Come in.
When-
Good morning.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey,
how
you
you?
doing?
Come in.
Have you ever
See.
met David? This is
I
my
believe I
oldest
have a long
son.
time ago. How you doing?
Fine.
This
good
is,
to see you.
she's not Katie and Beth.
Hey,
Hi,
how
She's
dog.
not really my cousin, but I call her cousin Sarah. She's on the other side.
Uh-huh.
I go on the other side of the family.
But she's
Oh,
No,
Bill's
yes, ma'am, I remember you now.
Yeah, I remember you
Uh-huh.
too. It's been a long time, but
I sure do.
Uh-huh.
You look the same. I
well,
remember
thank
what,
you. It's been a few years in between.
you know what I mean. I remember
Yeah.
your face.
Oh,
I just didn't place you for, I didn't remember meeting you before, but I do now.
Recently, Minne had relatives from Texas visit.
Oh, really?
Now, that's the ones that I told Steve about. Steve was gonna try to go out there where they were from.
Yeah, he was gonna try to look up some of these places.
Steve wants to go to those cemeteries out there and see if he can find any markers that,
They're marked.
are they?
Minne
He
had
found them.
Didn't you tell me that it was Bell County? Maybe
Yeah.
that's where, but anyway,
Bell County or Bell Town, the city,
it was in Bell
Yeah.
County.
okay? Because Steve said, he told me there's a Bell, Texas, right up the road from where he lives.
Belton, there's a Belton, Belton
This
too.
is Bell, didn't he say it was just Belle,
Oh,
Texas?
but since he lives in Texas, he said if
Yeah.
he had ever had a few days, he wanted to find out the general area and just go out there and see what he could see and all. And
be
Would
interesting.
check David
David and Steve have gotten real interested in all of this. That's why David wants it so he can remember it, and they're gonna share
Mhm.
things. you
Well,
know.
it's good to get it now because if you don't,
I said when 8 minutes gone, you wouldn't have anywhere to get it.
Minnie's back gone now, 'cause I don't even remember like I ought to.
Oh, you're doing good.
it's like with Daddy, he told us so many things that and if we had written it down at the time, but you know, you just be
Yeah.
like, well, they'll always be here.
Yes, ma'am,
And
you're
you just
right.
ask them and they'll tell you, but it doesn't happen that way.
Right, that's why he's recording this.
And Matt can remember a lot that Daddy told him.
Uh-huh.
Oh, these are
This is at Bartlett, at the cemetery, and this is where Aunt Frank's, marker looks now.
Well, now, was her name really Frank?
Francis, I guess.
And they just called her Aunt Frank?
You were born on Christmas Day.
Hmm.
Just the same.
It's the same one right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that lady had someone with her that made the pictures.
Oh, so they made them out there and sent them to you? I called some of the folks out in Utah a couple of years ago, and talked to them that were kin to us.
Tell them the experience, how it
Well,
came
Liv,
about.
Aunt Ollie's daughter,
Yeah.
gave us this sort of family history thing. She might have got it from you.
Oh, yeah.
And I just got to looking at the names and places and just called information and finally got up with the sister of the family. And she said, well, the one you really want to talk to is my brother Omar, I think was his name. So I called him, and it was Christmas Eve, as a matter of fact. And he said, well, me and my wife were just sitting here. He said, we never had any kids, and we were just sort of sitting here reading the scripture. And as a matter of fact, we were praying for a miracle, that something would happen to, you know, a little
To
fun
kind
and
of
excitement to liven up
Christmas.
Christmas Eve. And he said, and you called, so that was the answer to our prayer.
That was, Charlie Moore's daughter.
Yeah, now everybody, from reading that description too, everybody still says that me and got a lot of the same genes.
The one that had rather go fiddling than
They
stay
said rather
home
play
with
his
his
guitar
wife.
and he had to go to work.
Robin, when she read that, she said, David, that's where you get it.
But Minne had
Did he tell you what he was
That was from
reading? Just
lady,
tell you.
I can't call her name right now.
This is, she said it was Uncle Tom's lot, but I don't know whether it was Uncle Tom's lot or not.
Well, this is the layout
I
of the
bet you
cemetery.
Papa buried in that had that first. There's Aunt Frank Ray, she was 76 years old. Yeah.
That's what Steve needs, is
Mm-hmm.
exactly where to go,
There's
and he
Winnie
could
Moore.
find
He
out.
could find it.
Hers
Uh-huh.
is there. And then Henry Moore, He was
Well, now,
my
who's
age.
Henry Moore?
Huh?
Who was Henry
He
Moore?
was cousin Tom Moore's.
Were they in Texas too?
Uh-huh. They came to Texas while we lived there.
Was that your daddy's brother?
Oh, Lord, that's
Just Ken.
your relative. It was a big family of them, but they seem so close to us now.
Mhm.
And they visited here, three of the girls visited here this past spring.
Oh, the ones that.
The
Mhm.
Kenneth side.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And they say, and I had a nice card from one of them, Christmas, and she sent some pictures, and she's talking like she's coming back probably this year. And I had a letter from, recently from one of the others.
The headstone says Aunt Frank.
Does it?
That's probably what she was known by.
Uh-huh, I'm sure everybody just called her Aunt Frank. But
Well, they did from the
I
beginning.
had a great Aunt Frank.
Did
She
you?
was a character.
I can't read this, who this?
Well, Papa
My grandmother.
gave Aunt Frank
grandmother's
permission
sister.
Dita,
to,
you get magnified.
Oh, that's okay.
Just reach right around there, in that cabinet.
Pop
there,
gave
right,
Aunt
that
Frank
radio on
permission.
the right.
with those the children there
Around the
home, just like
magnifying glass.
Oh, she
they
could
were her
discipline
own,
them
and
and
she
all.
used it too.
Did she? Did she get you a time or two?
I don't remember anything.
May not be there, David.
I tell you, I bet you were a sight in your
Yeah.
time. All those older brothers and then you being the little
She
sister.
she's still a sight.
Yeah.
She hadn't changed.
And they always,
Yeah,
I remember
roll
Paul,
there.
it seems to me that he always brought me something
95 more.
when he went off, more than the
She's
rest of
the
them.
most human, spoiled person I ever known in my life.
I see the word mini in there.
What?
I said, you're the most human, spoiled person that I've ever known in my life.
Sarah, be
That's-
quiet.
That's,
But all I can make it up.
that's the truth. Don't forget that.
N-I-N-N-I-E.
We may even have a little family brawl here.
Was
I
there,
tell all the time she
I know.
done did this to me,
Yeah.
but it's the truth.
Minnie, was there,
She
Minnie,
doesn't want
buried
anything
in
but
the-
the breast of the
What?
chicken,
Was
because
there
when she
many
was a
buried
child,
in
she
that
always got to pull a bone.
Yeah.
When I ain't kind of identify with that.
That's
I always
her.
got to put it on too.
Well, you
When I
young
was in
and
there.
well, at home, it didn't matter to Aunt Laura, me, the one, because we just liked chicken.
Oh,
plus
yeah,
it wasn't
okay.
two.
Well, listen, tell me where this practice is changed now. But when I was growing up in generations before me, the adults ate first.
That's true.
Children waited on the back porch till the adults got through.
Well, our house was all big enough, we didn't have to put it on the back porch. But if we had more than our dining room table with seat, the children all waited.
Hmm. Now it's totally
Right,
reversed.
reversed.
They feed the
That
children.
started in the, but well, when, about the
That's
time
over
that
there.
Mac and Carol, and in the fall, this when the children were born, it switched completely, because when Mac and David and Carol and all those were coming up, their mothers fixed their food first.
Mhm.
And that was, but when we were children, and we thought
This is
nothing
your
about it,
parents.
we enjoyed all eating together
Yeah,
when we
your
all
parents.
got to the table, just the children.
But I do remember there wasn't a whole lot of good pieces of chicken left.
No, if
This
you had a
is
lot
what
of company and you had somebody that really liked chicken, you got the boneless pieces.
You ate what was left.
But we don't never.
I have a cousin that said that one of the words
that
that
anymore.
with
We
she
used to,
ever
Frank and I
received was
could
that
do it with.
they were visiting
Close, but you can have
Uncle
it
Ben's
done.
family, that was her daddy's
Well, he
brother.
wasn't quite 40. He was
And
my age. so
then,
he's
you know,
down now
people
30
got up
when
and
we
they
did
dressed
that.
the chicken and fried for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
He sure
And
was.
they had fried
I
chicken, well,
used to
she
go
slept
to the
late.
carrier watches.
And when she got up, Aunt Nora was gonna fix her breakfast, and it just had chicken feet and gravy. And Mary wouldn't eat the chicken foot because said she didn't eat chicken feet at home. And then Nora switched her because she wouldn't eat those chicken feet. I thought that was right bad.
I believe I had took a whooping with her. I wouldn't eat chicken feet
She
either.
didn't know.
Mm.
But then Uncle Brett, he liked the bone, that bony part, you know.
Oklahoma's son, he was.
And he'd always eat the feet. And that was one of his children didn't want to
had
feed.
one son that was a minister.
Just
He
because,
died on my birthday,
Yeah.
December the 22nd.
but now that foot wasn't my special part of the chicken.
Would you like to have some of this information, David?
Sure.
I
I'll
mean,
just
you're-
stick in front of the camera
Oh, you're just gonna do it, okay,
and videotape it.
okay. Well, you never did tell us a whole lot about my daddy.
Oh, he was,
Was he the one?
I'm trying to go back and remember back, Ethel, I don't know whether you remember this or not, but when Ethel said the first time she saw him, they, had moved there from Texas and went up there at school, and said Paul was standing there holding his hand like this. When they marched in, I outwon. You know how he used to hold his hand? I don't know whether you know.
No, I was a baby.
And
you know,
used to, when he
either.
milked, he'd hold his hand like that.
Well, you could get the spit butt, so it'd give you more pressure.
Uh-huh.
Was she noticed that at school?
Yeah.
That's the first time she ever saw him.
Oh,
And as time passed on and all, and I can remember him up as he grew up, and if he had an extra job, anything, had any money, to spend it, and was by the store, he
Girls
would
like to
always
see those
remember
pictures.
me.
sure.
And one time he gave me a little sewing bag, I remember that. This is over
You can
there at
sit
the
there
cemetery.
and then they-
Uh,
No, you keep your chair.
see
She'll
like
stand up
that.
behind them.
I need to stir
over here.
around.
Oh, you need to.
Hurricane.
That cord in your way?
No.
Down there for me.
Well, don't trip over it.
Let me pull it on anyway.
Well, that was Uncle Albanine out of there. Let's see this one over here.
Oh,
Need to stir around a little.
Yeah, I'm getting the same way myself.
There's another more.
I remember Mother saying Daddy was always real good to you and thought you were the stuff.
And your daddy,
They all
and your
did.
daddy one time brought me a little red flutina, you know,
A what?
Now, what's a flutina?
there's
Accordion.
something.
Accordion.
Oh.
Accordion ain't more.
Huh?
Accordion. Accordion.
What's a flutina?
They were
Well,
called-
maybe
they were
back
called
then they
14.
called it a flutina.
They did.
Well, I
They
bet.
did, it was a little red one.
Mama had one.
This is Martha, there in Texas.
Mom used to talking about when Daddy went to the circus. Did you ever hear that?
It was April.
He had heard of Eskimo pies all his life.
This is
And
another.
he saw they were advertising or talking Eskimo pies. He said, well, he wanted one. So they had a little
This is
counter. He
red
went up
one.
and sat
Been
down
put
and
in that log.
he went in and sat down and ordered an Eskimo pie and a
I
cup
wanna
of
see
coffee.
the one.
He thought it was a real pie.
Uh-huh. You know, it was ice cream.
And she said that they told her she wasn't with him, I don't think. They
Must be on
said he
this
was a
side.
pretty wild driver, you know. Said he had a fancy new
That's
car or
right.
something and was going down the road and passed one.
See
And there was a
what
big
it's got?
bus coming. Said he said, you believe this car will go between that
A little
car and
lamp
bus?
up on it.
And everybody else said, no, no, and he showed me it would.
This is granddaddy.
Uh-huh. So I think he loved to go and have a good time from what everybody said.
Well, he got
Oh,
injured
yeah, this is
riding
it.
a motorcycle.
This is.
He did.
Uh,
I never heard of him riding a
I
motorcycle.
think, see that little.
Minnie
man?
take you that in a few minutes.
That's your sister?
Uh-huh. Can you see what
You could probably tell us some tales too. What you want to tell?
1906.
It's hard for me to remember. I can help her jog her
Mhm.
memory a little bit.
Tell us about Dad and the motorcycle.
Well, Pauline's friend from Auburn was up there and had this motorcycle. And Paul goes out there and gets on it and rides up the hill and going out toward, he's going out West Point Street toward 431 right now. And that was the worst road in the world. And there was a bump there and that threw him, hit him.
Hmm.
You hurt him bad?
Beg your pardon?
Did it hurt him bad?
I
Very bad?
believe that was the beginning of his ending.
Oh, really?
I'll always believe it.
Huh.
Well, one thing I think, didn't they say he slipped on a banana peeling and
Well, that
injured a
was the
kidney?
reason. Well, he was living out there on the farm then,
Oh, was
and
he?
he was in town, and he slipped on a banana peeling along there on Main Street. Well, he was up on the sidewalk, and he had to be brought home. Well, Dr. McClendon, I think it was, that brought him home and checked him. And for a good while, he wasn't able to do anything. And then he was out there and he saw, he always did like to tinker. He'd make picture frames out of most anything. And he'd make what kind of poles did you call them back in that day, Frank?
Just chinning poles.
Chinning poles.
What is that?
You have a pole up about high as you can reach and you
Oh, chin it, pull
Pull
up.
it up to,
pull it
Oh,
up.
okay.
Oh,
Take
okay.
your chin over it, or you can turn or some such.
Okay.
Oh.
It's
And
a
then he had
exercise.
he'd make flying
We had
jigs.
one at school.
He ought to have had that when you came along. I mean, but you came along too late.
Cause
Flying
see,
Jenny,
I
that's
was a
some kind of
baby
toy,
when
little
that.
gadget you make.
you
isn't it?
don't remember
A
the
flying
at all.
Jenny?
And he could tinker with watches,
That
clocks,
was
on
what they called
machines.
some things.
Huh?
I don't
He
remember
did
what
on the
it was.
machines.
Oh,
And he was at that, Mr. Russell's. And anyway, he got the job there.
working in a jewelry
Working
shop.
with Mr. Russell, he was a jewelryman. And Mr. Russell trained him. And they lived out, your mama moved out there, and they lived down there on Strickland Street,
Mm-hmm, I remember that.
way down there on the end,
Oh, no.
on the
Yeah.
left. They were way down there on the left.
Oh, I didn't know they lived in there.
Well, they did, they lived down there. And then as time came on, he had the store to himself. Mr. Russell went to the valley.
I imagine I have a watch here that has his initials in the back of it. in the
Oh,
case.
really?
Oh, really? How about that?
Would it be any trouble to get to? If it is, just
I
say
don't-
so.
I don't know where I find it. It's laid
Oh.
loose somewhere.
You wouldn't say that to him. You find anything here, you doing good.
When we were going to church in Bethel, when I lived over in Franklin, a man came up to me one day and said he had the counter. He bought the counter out of his store, the jewelry store, and used it as a tool bench or something.
Hmm. Well, now, for a while he worked in Roanoke, and then he had a section in a drugstore over in Hogansville.
Uh-huh.
You have that picture?
Is that
Yeah,
the
what-
picture with
that,
he's got
his-
guns and all kind of stuff in a cabinet?
That was
counter?
part of a drugstore. He had a part of that
Okay.
so many days a week. And I used to laugh and say that I knew they didn't want me because I was the fourth little girl, you know. And she said, when Daddy would go over to Hogansville and stay, I don't know how many nights during the week, you know, said when he came home, he knew the baby was glad to see him. Said, I will always be standing at the window, just a jumping up and down when he came back. Now, if y'all are getting ready to eat,
Yeah, we
we
can go
don't
on.
want to,
No.
This is our,
interrupt anything.
always, during Christmas, my nieces come and spend the day with us.
Oh, is that this year's?
Uh-huh. And
I hadn't seen them.
that's this year. That's, one of my nieces, Mavis. Her daddy and
Where are you from, Uncle
Granddaddy.
Frank?
her brother.
Next house.
Oh, so
Born
this-
out there.
Okay.
Been living here just about 85
Is that-
years.
Look at that, hold it. Somebody needs some
Your
glasses.
sister, I took a guitar lesson from one time.
Uh-huh.
Certainly was, mother, sister-in-law.
Uh,
Sister-in-law, that's right.
She
was
came to the
Smith,
school
too.
at Waterloo and taught. You took guitar and piano from her, didn't you?
I took one guitar lesson.
You know
Oh, but
that?
you took some
Oh,
piano lessons, didn't you?
Did
Yeah.
I? I don't even remember that.
Granny.
Oh, but-
You came to a party down at her house.
Oh, she had a Christmas party
Uh-huh.
every year, and the students came and played and
Mhm.
sang and did that kind of thing.
You came down there one
I
time.
sure
to
did.
that.
Who were they?
They moved, they,
This is Mavis, my niece.
About-
My first
61,
cousin.
I guess. After
She
my
always
father
old lady
died.
like that when she was out fixing.
Father died in 59.
That was
Late
a tree.
in the year. Father died in May
We had a good
60.
day.
Yeah, we did.
So you actually grew up, I mean, that's the house you were born in or raised in, right next door? Oh, okay.
When I moved, I just
That's,
had a few things I had in a suitcase and threw the rest over my shoulder and walked off.
Walks over.
Alice brought some things in the arm. I remember
Yeah.
that.
That was my oldest sister,
What year did y'all get married?
54.
Man.
Year before you got, before you were born.
79.
You know, the fifties to me don't seem like it ought to be 40-something years ago, I guess, because I was born in the fifties. I still remember when it turned 1960, everybody made a big deal out of that. But to Beth and Katie, boy, something from the fifties is just,
That's way back.
boy, don't
Back
touch
in
it,
the
it might
dark
break.
ages.
How old are you now?
39,
39.
yes ma'am.
That's the same age you, Paul was.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that from the tombstone.
You're not gonna ever get over 39, are you?
You know, to tell you the truth, I don't care. I just,
Age doesn't bother me.
it don't
either.
bother me.
Well, you know, I think Carol said she thought it really worried Steve there in about his middle 30s for a while. You know, my daddy died,
Uh-huh.
you know, and then their daddy died at 37.
Mhm.
And Carol said Steve really,
Word of
I
that.
remember when that bothered Steve. He felt like he
he just might
might
not
not
live
supposed
past
to
that.
live past that.
It's hard to tell though. Some members of the family live a long time and others
Uh-huh.
don't. And it kind of sort of reversed. The one you think that will live the longest is the one that
Mhm.
don't live the longest.
Mhm.
So,
Did y'all ever know Bill and Mary Prince from down at Fredonia? They're not originally from there, but they've lived there several years.
I think I had seen them, but I didn't really know them.
She had all kinds
Really
of
sucks.
heart surgery and problems and just like to die.
Oh, that's
And still,
really-
Yes, I
Kinda
recognize you in
wicked,
a minute, but I don't know
and
this.
you know, he just
that's
went and
Louis
did
Phillips.
everything.
She
One
is
day he just fell, and they found out he had a
Mavis'
brain
husband, and that's
tumor,
their daughter.
and he
Okay,
died
now-
not long ago.
Okay, is this like a cousin?
She's
I've heard the name
still
cousin Mavis.
Doing all
before.
right, I guess. Everybody
Okay.
thought they
She,
would go
she was
first.
helping
But you
More.
can never tell.
Okay.
on the side of the head. And
How many brothers and sisters
Where they
did
live?
Grandpa Moore have?
Hogan.
I've heard you name Luther and Oliver. How many were
Pretty
in that
good, sure.
family?
I've been about forgotten.
A lot.
There was Parks,
Parks.
That's one thing this family can do, is
Yeah.
put down some chow.
Mm-hmm.
and Uncle Luther, and Uncle Jimmy, Uncle
Oh,
Oliver.
Lord. And others.
Well,
And then there was,
She seems to be doing right good. But
married
she
a-
has
one of the girls married a Pearsall,
chronic
and one of them married,
things pop up. Her
Mhm.
feet are bothering her right now.
I haven't seen that in all of them.
Scott.
It's probably been 3 years. I need to
Oh,
go up and see her today.
That's about the same size.
And then they Viola married a couple,
She and Kenneth, the oldest
so
son, I think he's
that's
oldest.
it.
No, he's in Rick's oldest.
well,
Oh,
I,
yeah.
y'all
They
go
used
ahead
to
and do what
come
you've got to do
down
about
pretty
lunch.
often, but
We'll run on.
We let
We
you
could
share it with
need-
us.
we could,
got
sit and talk all
handful
day.
of-
Unless David's got maybe
I
one
have that
other
same
thing or two he
problem.
needs to
I
ask
have-
you.
I have- I don't have the arthritis
But,
near as bad as he does, but I have it just enough soft
Doing all
hurt.
that needlework.
But,
You gave me
I
some
have it in
glue.
this-
Did you do?
Yes, ma'am, I made
Take
many pot holders with that.
600 milligrams.
Still
Hard to do?
you know,
Not
that
really,
works
once
for
you
me
get the
better
hang
than
of it,
anything
it's
else
good.
does
I
too.
never did
Most
get
of
the
it
hang
really, really
It
helps.
wouldn't hang with
Well,
me, I
that's
was
what
gonna
the
have,
doctor
did you have to trim it
prescribed,
much?
even when
Not
they take
really.
3 a day,
I wasn't sure how to tie the
I tell
ends,
you,
but
getting up
once you
during
get
the
going,
night,
it's not too hard.
spacing them 8 hours.
What grade you
Yes,
in
sir.
school then?
And
Ninth
eating a
grade.
snack, you have to eat
And you?
something that'll
Seven.
burn you,
Seven.
Uh-huh.
Well, good.
you know.
They're getting
I
big,
started
big
telling the
girls.
doctor about leaving
They
off
won't
one
stay
of
small.
these. Take one at breakfast
And where do you
and
go
one
to
at supper,
school
and he said, okay.
Ma'am?
Where do you go to school?
In Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Riverside Junior High School. So,
And where were the schools that they learned taught?
Well, she taught in high school, and she was principal at Jimson Elementary.
Y'all know where that is, don't you?
I've heard the name.
Jemison, that's
Down on
Tuscaloosa.
No, yeah.
That's
And
what
I
she-
taught
her
in,
sister.
high
Oh.
school for a
She
number
was
of
in
years, and then she
education.
was principal of Jemison. And then, there was another one, she was principal before she went to Jemison, but I've not forgotten the name of that school. But when she left there and went to Auburn, she was principal at Jemson's, and she was several years later.
Jemson's going toward Birmingham from Tuscaloosa, isn't it?
I seen a sign when I went up there.
That's what I'm
something
thinking,
that
there's an
said
exit or
Jimson.
something in Jemerson, something exit, as you're going back toward Birmingham.
Y'all driving
Tuscaloosa.
one of those big automobiles from down that way?
Oh, Mercedes Benz.
No, I don't think so.
Uh,
Unless they give them away, then I'll get one.
They did that out at Mounds. Where did they build? Where's all that going on?
It's actually toward Vance and Brookwood, about 10 miles toward Birmingham from Tuscaloosa. It's not going to actually be in Tuscaloosa. Well, if Tuscaloosa gets their way, it will be. They're annexing everything they can between Tuscaloosa and there.
They probably want to get that for tax purposes.
Oh, well, there's been big fights, a lot of court suits about that, because all the little towns around there, Tuscaloosa's pretty much just taking what they wanted. They
She
had
has
extra
grown in the last years.
spreading out too. Downtown started drying up, and anything close to the interstate is really spreading out and growing south down toward Montgomery. It's 10 years from now, it'll probably be, won't be much country between Tuscaloosa and Montgomery.
You ever come in contact with Dr. McHugh?
Used to be in Roanoke?
Yeah.
Is he in Tuscaloosa?
He's been there for years.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. David just had surgery.
But he didn't do it.
No, but I mean, David had hand surgery not long ago.
Who did?
David.
Sure enough.
But he's doing fine now. I had sort of the same problem. Mama's got where your hands go to sleep, the nerves get pinched.
In England, you know.
And
had
Emma
surgery.
has it too. And they go in, they cut the ligament across there,
Uh-huh.
and it releases the pressure on that nerve.
When Emily had hers, you know, they cut her from about there up to there. But they did David's with a micro.
Actually, with a microscope, they scoped it. Made a cut right there, one right there, and then they stick a little light with a little micro pair of scissors attached to it, and they watch a television screen.
To see
Little
what they're
camera on the
doing.
end of that probe, so they don't have to cut you. I had 5 stitches, I had 3 right there, 2 right there. Whereas if he asked me if I wanted it the other way, and it would have been like 12 or 15 stitches and a big long cut.
A lot of people have time with that.
What did you do at the TV station?
I'm the operations manager. I don't do news and I don't do sales. Everything else is mine. I'm responsible for everything else. And I usually wind up doing a lot of news too, so. It's a small enough station that you can do, everybody sort of overlaps and does a little bit of
Kinda
everything.
like it.
It's the best job I ever had.
Do you have country music?
No, sir.
Our station in Roanoke play it
That's all they know
24 hours a
how.
day.
Oh, well, he's
Radio
TV.
station?
He's
I'm
TV.
TV.
They have been bought by a big company out in where?
Well, Arizona, Los Angeles.
Okay, but anyway, recently they've been bought. And David was telling me about how he thought it was gonna help things, a lot more benefits and everything, and he said, and they've got a good retirement plan. And I said, wait a minute. He said, what is it? I said, when my son starts talking about a retirement plan, where does that leave me? You know.
Ready to retire.
They just really grabbed me when he said retirement plan.
You have to think about things like that.
Well, I know, but I still think he's a little boy, you know, and I'm, and
And
he's,
you'll think his little boy, he lived to be 100.
I guess so, but,
Well, I am still a little boy.
You find out sometime, they're not so little, don't you?
yeah, yeah, you do.
When you
Wait.
get trying to tell them what to do.
And when they turn around and treat you like the child, now, Mama, you do so and so.
Now, you got to admit, if you ask me to do something, I pretty much do it, though. I'm still a good boy.
Yeah. What Christmas, I got on to him about something, told him to do something. He said, "But Mama," I said, "David, I am still a mother."
I figure as long as she cooks, I'll pretty much do what she says.
We had the best time Christmas.
What we did.
It was the first time we had all been together at Christmas time in how many years? Several.
I don't remember the last time. I guess over at the trailer in the valley.
Anyway, it's been like, you know, they come at different times and we don't always get together, but everybody be together at Christmas time. And they all spent the night and Santa Claus came there and we had folks in the floor and you had to be careful how you walked. In fact, the guy Cindy's engaged to was in there on one couch and I think Cindy and Freeman and who all was laying in the floor.
I had a bed. I got into the bed first and stayed there to make sure nobody else got it.
And Gary said Harold got up early and came in there to put some wood on the fire and start some coffee. And he didn't turn on any lights. And Gary said, I wondered how Mr. Harold was stepping all these bodies and everything and seeing where he was going. And said, about that time Harold ran into something and just knocked, I don't know what
I
all.
heard it from the back bedroom. Pots and pans went everywhere and coffee cans.
He was trying to be so nice and not turn on the
What
light.
he did was he caught his toe on a corner.
Oh, did he?
You know, split his toes. Man, he was hopping around and knocking stuff off. He made it all over all the bodies and got to a part of the kitchen he knew real well where there wasn't anybody and then got tripped up.
He was asking about, I told him about Ann was getting married.
Well, did you finally tell that?
Yeah,
I got all over her. She knew that Christmas when you
And
walked.
she didn't tell.
I kept thinking,
well, I
ain't
didn't know
Mo's
whether
gonna,
Sarah had got the message.
I
and
kept
wouldn't
thinking,
get
well, is Aunt Mo gonna, isn't she gonna tell them? Isn't she gonna tell them? And she let the whole day go by, and I just got all over the next day.
Yeah, you call her Aunt Moore.
Uh-huh. See, when she and her Carter's married, she was working at the hospital in Roanoke, and everybody called her Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always, everybody in our family called her Moore.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I never.
Mm-hmm.
Where and when did you go to nursing school, Aunt Minnie?
Where did I go?
Mm-hmm.
I first started off at, in Gadsden. Then I went on to Birmingham. Went to Hillman Hospital, which is now, university.
Uh-huh.
Of course,
What got you interested in that? I mean, that sort of started a trend in the family, didn't it? It seemed like Lib and Pat both went.
I don't know about that, but that's what I want to be.
You just always
You
wanted
just
to be a
always-
nurse? That's interesting. That's sort of an unusual thing, wasn't it, for a woman to, back then, to leave home and go to school like that?
Well, some of them didn't do it. They'd go, but they wouldn't stay.
Uh-huh.
And some of them, Uncle Alvin, his family just didn't think anything of it at all. They didn't think that I should do it.
Really?
Well, it wasn't as easy for a woman to have a career
No.
in
There
those
wasn't
days.
as many fields then
Right.
that there is now, you know. A
I haven't-
teacher or nurse was just about, unless you worked in a department store, was the main places that people
But
worked.
I wanted to do it, and some of them said, well, Minnie wouldn't stay, and Papa said, well, if Minnie goes, she'll stay. I would have stayed. I wanted to do it.
How long did you go to
I
school?
enjoyed my nursing.
How long
How long
did
did you
it
go to
take
school?
I went 3 years. You could go 3 years then and be an RN, but it was full-time work,
Uh-huh.
work and school.
What year did you start being a nurse? Did you actually get your license or whatever you?
I get my license,
When did you finish school and start work as a nurse?
32, I believe.
When did you retire?
when they retired,
Yes, ma'am.
72.
So you worked 40 years as a nurse?
Not all the time.
Right.
Do you
See,
remember?
I went to work at hospital and I went home when I graduated. I'd already had state board.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I finished up, well, before I finished, I had air syphilis. And the infection was right here. And then it started going this way, but they got it down to where it went back this way. They said if it going up, of course it would have been death.
Yes, ma'am.
And so they let Paul know about it, and that's when he made arrangements with Quarterbaum, the undertaker. And Quarterbaum always teased me about it. He had arrangements to take care of me. I said, "You don't wait for it." But anyway,
Quarterbaum's a
Paul came
funeral
up there.
home.
Paul came up there to see me. Dr. Bonner told him he and Miss Bonner were going over to Tuscaloosa. Sarah White was over there in college. And they brought him by, but he could just stand out in the hall and look in there. That's as close as he could get to me. Because I could not have visitors.
Mm-hmm. I never heard of that. Was that a common ailment?
No,
Do people still have it today?
you can have it, I'm sure.
Never heard of it.
What's the name of it?
They're selfless.
Starts with the E, but I can't, that's far
Uh-huh.
enough to go.
Well,
She had a patient, didn't you, that had it?
That's what I was just asking.
I
if you
did,
got
I
it.
had a patient. Those nurses up there at the hospital where I was, they kind of shunned this woman. And you see, I was not one of them.
Mhm.
So anyway, I landed up having her. And I took care of her so much of the time, but I put on my cap and my gloves and gown and everything like that. But somewhere, somehow, I touched my nose right up there. Something, I had a germ up there.
How long did it take you to get over it?
Well, I stayed in the hospital a good while, and then it was just a short time, so it was time for me to, I was through there, and so I was coming home for good. And I had an offer to work there, but I was ready to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, I came home, David, and I lost quite a bit of weight. And, we had 3 hogs to keep up. We had plenty of peanuts. We had plenty of sweet potatoes. I put on 20 pounds in 2 months.
Coming home was good to you, wasn't it? You know, I used the expression at work the other day. Well, it got down, it was 18 degrees, and I said, "Man, this is hog killing weather." And they didn't have any idea what I was talking about. I had to stop and explain to about 20 people what
Hog
hog killing weather was.
well,
It used to be a busy time, but it was a good time.
I don't know how come, I think Eldon had been there, you know, and it worked, but he was off with the job.
But y'all about ready to go?
Yeah.
So they can eat and we can get on back. I can help Harold with the
Yeah.
same.
Well, now I want you to come back sometime.
We will.
they don't get down here very often.
I'm gonna start coming more though. I had just been working so much. I never got any time off, and I've just started. I just told them I got to have some time off, and we're gonna start coming down every 2 or 3 months. So we'll come back and see you.
We want you to.
Nice to see you.
Good
Well,
to see you. I'll shut her down there, kiddo.
Katie's got to do a documentary.
Any of this, and he had some in it.
Maybe they're toward the back. Bare feet sticking out. But I've never seen a baby posed with its arm over the chair like that?
Who's the other one?
That one's Aunt Minnie. This is my mother and her mother-in-law. Aunt Minnie's mother, Granny Moore.
Redhead, about the
Yeah.
color of yours.
Am I redheaded?
Well, what color's that?
Your daddy.
Well, you passed it.
I did.
Wait a minute. While
So he had
He
been
was
on.
about
Picture.
16 years
It
older
looks like a
than
baby
Mama.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
And she always said Mr. Moore, but
She did.
But people did back then.
She called him Mr. Moore.
And I said I'd never do it, and I'd never marry one older than me, and I did do it. So. And now then I have to say Mr. Smith.
You do.
I get amplified, she don't pay me any attention.
Ain't Moore, how old was Mr. Moore back when that picture was made?
You're gonna put some of this on tape
For Steve.
or what, for me too.
Oh yeah, I can make you a copy before we leave. Okay.
And I just try to stay awake because sometimes